Nobody teaches this in real estate courses. It's never in the spreadsheets. Nobody mentions it in the listings. But bad neighbors are one of the biggest silent killers of real estate investments. And the worst part? You won't find it in any cap rate calculator, pro forma, or deal analyzer. Yet this single factor can tank your returns, destabilize your tenants, and leave you wondering why your great deal suddenly turned into a nightmare. Today we're talking about nosy neighbors, loud neighbors, police calling neighbors, violent neighbors, criminal neighbors, drug users, smokers, hoarders, mentally unstable individuals, messy yards, junk cars, illegal activity, and all the hidden headaches that never show up in your underwriting, but absolutely show up in your cash flow. Because if you're not evaluating the neighborhood and the people living around your property, you are only doing half the due diligence. Let's start with the first category, the nosy neighbor. The person who watches everything, reports everything, and inserts themselves into every situation. They'll call you over weeds, call you over trash cans, call you about the tenant's dog barking, and call the city if your lawn is 1 inch too long. This neighbor creates tension, stresses out tenants, and can turn a perfectly good property into a revolving door nightmare. Tenant turnover costs money, and this person can cause turnover every year. Then you've got the loud neighbor, the daily partier, the guy who revs his motorcycle at midnight, the couple that fights at 2 in the morning. Noise complaints drive good tenants out faster than rent increases. Suddenly your amazing spreadsheet with stable tenants becomes a vacancy every 9 months. Turnover, repainting, cleaning, leasing fees, the numbers add up fast. Next, the I call the police for everything neighbor. This is the neighbor who uses 911 as conflict resolution. Your tenants breathe too loud, and suddenly there are squad cars outside. And guess what? Tenants don't renew leases when police are constantly in the neighborhood. You don't get paid for stability when every year becomes a forced move-out. Now let's get darker. Violent or criminal neighbors. The ones dealing drugs. The domestic abuser next door. The guy with 5 friends hanging outside at all hours. The property with constant yelling, constant chaos, and constant danger. Nobody tells you how fast a single criminal neighbor can reduce your tenant pool. Suddenly your showings dry up, your applications drop, and the only people who want to move into your unit are people who are just like the neighbor causing the problems. That's how a good property becomes a bad one. Not because the building changed, but because the surrounding people changed. There's also the smoker next door. Maybe they smoke weed. Maybe they smoke cigarettes. Maybe they smoke cheap cigars that smell like burning plastic. Whatever it is, smoke drifts. If it goes through vents, windows, stairwells, your tenants will complain nonstop. And no, smoke doesn't show up in your pro forma, but it shows up in your churn, your complaints, and your headaches. Then there are the neighbors who keep junk cars in the lawn, piles of trash in the yard, old mattresses leaning against the house, rusty appliances. This kills curb appeal instantly. Families won't apply, young professionals won't apply. Your rent potential drops, your tenant pool shrinks, and your time on market explodes. Let's talk hoarders. Hoarder neighbors attract pests, mice, roaches, raccoons, you name it. You end up paying for exterminators for a problem you didn't create. That's not in your spreadsheet either. And then there are neighbors battling mental health issues, screaming at night, talking to themselves, walking around the street threatening people or behaving unpredictably. Tenants don't feel safe. And if tenants don't feel safe, they don't stay. But here's the real financial analysis nobody talks about. Let's run numbers. Say you buy a property generating $1,000 a month in cash flow. That's $12,000 a year. But one bad neighbor causes 1 extra turnover this year. Turnover wipes out thousands. Say you lose 2 months of rent. That's $2,000. Repaint and clean, $800. Leasing fee, 1 month's rent, another $1,000. Repairs from move-out, $1,200. Vacancy utilities, a couple hundred. Time wasted, frustration, stress, endless. Suddenly a $1,000 monthly cash flow deal is a break-even or even negative year, all because the neighbor next door is a disaster. Worse, Bad neighbors hurt property values. A house with trash-filled yards on both sides sells slower and appraises lower. I've seen appraisers knock $5,000 to $15,000 off valuations because of surrounding conditions. And no spreadsheet is going to warn you about that. A bad neighbor can also scare off lenders. If the surrounding environment looks unsafe, lenders tighten terms or reduce loan amounts. Higher interest, lower LTV, more cash required, all because of someone who doesn't even live on your property. And then there's insurance. High neighborhood police activity can raise premiums. More claims mean higher risk scores. It all ties together. The real cost of bad neighbors is not counted in dollars. It's counted in churn, in time, in stress, and in diminished long-term returns. So what should you look for when buying a property? Drive the neighborhood at night. Visit in the morning. Visit on weekends. Park your car and just listen. Look for trash cans overflowing. Look for junk cars. Look for boarded windows. Look for dogs tied up outside all day. Look for police presence. Look for people hanging out aimlessly. Look for the signs nobody talks about. Talk to people on the street. Ask neighbors, what's it like living here? Look for the faces they make before they answer. Talk to tenants. They will tell you everything about who lives next door. And remember this, bad neighbors don't always stay bad, but if you buy into a problem, you inherit every bit of that problem. So make bad neighbor analysis part of your underwriting. Not just rents, not just cap rates, not just taxes. Look at who lives next door, because that person might be the one who destroys your investment quietly from the sidelines. And you'll never see it coming until you're knee-deep in turnover, vacancy, and headaches. Smart investors look at the numbers. Great investors look at the people surrounding the numbers. Follow the finance shark for more real estate truth, portfolio protection strategies, and investing lessons that go deeper than spreadsheets, because the things you can't quantify are the things that can cost you the most.